This story is about a woman who was intelligent, polished, sophisticated, attractive, and she was a photographer dream because of how photogenic she was. She had a voice that could never be copied. Today's story is about one of the queens of Philly soul, Miss Phyllis Hyman. Before we get started in today's video, please be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push the notification bell to stay up to date. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. Phyllis Linda Hyman was born on July 6, 1949 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Louise Hyman, who was a waitress, and Philip Hyman, who was a World War II veteran and barber. She would grow up in Pittsburgh, St. Clair Village neighborhood where her family would relocate there.
Swimming.
Now, which high school was it, Phyllis?
Well, I was born here in Philadelphia and raised in Pittsburgh. So I live here now. I've been here about 3 years.
Yeah.
I came back home and did it.
Now, as the oldest of 7 children, her first love was singing, as she admired many performers, including Nancy Wilson and James Brown.
Who has influenced your style most?
It's hard to say. 2 singers I remember listening to a great deal when I was younger was Nancy Wilson and James Brown. As far, as far away as those 2 are in terms of styles. But James attracted me because of his roughness. He was exciting. And during the time when he was at the height of his career, he had a hit out, it seemed like every couple of months, and he owned radio stations, and he was a very powerful and rich man. And as a young girl, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be powerful. I wanted to be in control. And then Nancy Wilson, I just thought she was the premier vocalist. I thought, if you can't sing like Nancy, don't bother. And of course, I didn't get in the business for a while because of that. I just thought she was the best singer ever. I sang in clubs and things like that, but I couldn't imagine being a professional singer because I didn't think I had anything to offer.
When Hyman would consistently outsing whoever was playing on the radio, this is the moment where her family believed she was destined to sing. Phyllis, she was clearly the family star from the start. And by junior high, she really improved on her singing thanks to her music teacher. Hyman, she would receive her high school diploma for Carrick High School in 1968, and she was given a scholarship to Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh. But after a year, she decided to leave to concentrate on her work because she was determined to get her voice heard. Like many singers, Hyman's career started off in nightclubs, where she would leave everyone with unforgettable memories due to her incredible singing voice. In 1971, Phyllis, she was noticed and went on tour with a group named New Direction. The group would eventually disband and she would join another group called All the People, also joining a local group called Hand O Beat. In 1972, Phyllis, she was moved to Miami where she would begin owning her craft. She would land a gig to perform on a cruise ship. And while on this cruise ship, she would meet a Jamaican singer named Larry Alexander. In a duo, they would begin dating. After her gig was over, she would return to Miami with a new mindset. She would start her own group called Phyllis Hyman and the PH Factor, in which she would make all of the arrangements. She was also casted in the 1974 film Lenny. And in December of 1975, she would relocate to New York with her band in order to take part and sing a background for John Lewis's single, Premonition. After seeing her perform one night, Hyman, she pleased record producers enough to join their label, Roadshow Records. When singer Norman Connors visit a Manhattan nightclub where Phyllis was performing in 1975, she would receive her big break. She completely stunned him, and with the label's approval, they began working on 2 singles for his album, You Are My Starship. Hyman's career reached new heights thanks to these records. This album has sold over 500,000 copies and was awarded a gold certification. The two singles with Phyllis Hyman was We Both Need Each Other.
Seeing you blue hurts me so inside.
And Betcha by Golly Wow.
Magic in your eyes.
She worked as a secretary while performing at the venues.
Call me kid.
You know, you actually worked once in like a legal services office.
Yes,
I
I
can't
used to be a
imagine you as an
secretary.
office worker.
Good morning, Neighborhood Legal Services. May I help you? Could type and can take short and can still do both, just in case the singing thing doesn't work out. You know, no, I can be your secretary.
Hey.
No problem.
Anytime, you know.
No problem.
And as she became popular, notable entertainers such as Ashford and Simpson, Stevie Wonder, George Benson, and George Harrison, among many others, came to pack up the audience to see her sing. She recorded two singles in 1975 and 1976 with Leaving a Good Life Behind and Baby I'm Gonna Love You. Phyllis signed a contract with Buddha Records in 1976, and on April 2nd, 1977, she released her debut album, which peaked at 107 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 49 on the Billboard Top R&B Album charts. Loving You, Losing You,
Middle of my life, I had nothing to lose, no one to love.
and No One Can Love You More was the two big hit singles from this album.
No one can tell me.
In 1978, her second album, Single Song, was released. And while working on her third album, Arista Records, who was owned by Clive Davis, had bought out Buddha Records. Now, Davis had high expectations, and therefore he would place them on Hyman because he expected her to sell 2 million copies rather than the 300,000 she typically did. Phyllis, she would become extremely stressed out due to this high demand. And Somewhere in My Lifetime was released in 1979. This album had peaked number 70 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 15 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. Now, although this record is really a high favorite in her fan base, it didn't live up to the expectations that Davis had held. This album will still produce 3 successful singles with the title track
Somewhere in my lifetime,
Kiss You All Over,
gonna light your fire. All day I've been thinking about you.
and You Know How to Love Me.
Measure for measure, your love so.
In September of 1978, Phyllis would marry her long-term boyfriend, Larry Alexander. She would release another album that same year in 1979, titled You Know How to Love Me, which peaked at number 50 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 10 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. Now, Davis, he started to get impatient with Hyman's lack of commercial success, and he shifted his attention to new upcoming soul performers such as Angela Bofield, Dionne Warwick, and Aretha Franklin. This action will push Phyllis away from the center and create competition. Now, during this time period, it was prohibited for two artists of the same sex to hold the top positions under the same label. Phyllis will have a significant personality change as a result, which plugged into a severe depression episode for her, where she turned to cocaine. Her relative and acquaintances started observing significant changes in her behavior by 1980. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in the 80s, and today this same condition runs in her family, as her sister and several other relatives also suffer from it. She frequently discussed her sadness and thoughts of suicide in interviews, also to close friends and family.
I don't deal with it very well. I manage to produce and deliver. But personally, I haven't dealt with it very well. I've had a lot of emotional ups and downs. As I said earlier, I have begun the process of recovery, so to speak, you know, just trying to feel better about myself, regain my
But
confidence.
you seem like the type of person that lives life from one extreme. There's no medium ground
Oh, no,
for
there
you.
isn't. I'm born under the sign of Cancer, and I have a Sagittarian moon and rising. And if you know anything about the signs, that's called extreme highs and extreme lows, and there is no middle for me. It has to be something that has to be worked on. And I'm talking about worked on full time, and that's almost impossible in this sort of work.
Phyllis, she also struggled with drugs and alcohol, which caused her weight to vary. The label would reunite her with Norman Counters for her 5th album, Can't We Fall in Love Again, which peaked at 58 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 11 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. With the title song, this album provided us with 3 big singles.
Can't we fall in love again?
Tonight, You and Me,
The time is for making love's cool and sweet.
and You Sure Look Good to Me.
I can feel the danger as you.
She eventually grew frustrated with her label and made the decision to take a break and return to her origins and started performing in a jazz nightclub. She was discovered by the casting director of the Broadway play Sophisticated Ladies, which she would receive the lead part in. Now Davis, he didn't want her to perform in the play, but she would follow her instincts, and nevertheless, this was a great move for her career because it led to a Tony Award nomination. But at the end, Phyllis, she would be honored with the Theater Ward Award for Best Newcomer.
How did appearing on Broadway in Sophisticated Ladies change your life?
It was so different than anything I'd ever done before. 8 shows a week, 2 on Wednesday and Saturday. It made a great difference in the way I approach the stage today. I have much more confidence when I hit that stage. Pretty much about the first year, I was a basket case. I was very nervous.
You mean the first year you were performing?
Yes, actually performing. I couldn't quite get it together. I just couldn't get it together. I was nervous. I didn't think I was that good. And when the Tony nomination came through and I won the Theater World Award, I really felt like they gave it to me because there was no one else.
Phyllis believed she was a star, and she damn was. But her label disagreed. The play would last for 22 months, and the mix at this time she was modeling, recording, and her personal life started to become too much for Phyllis. She also wasn't content in her marriage, so she would put modeling on hold, and after 10 years of being together, the partnership and marriage between Alexander and Hyman came to an end. She would release the album Goddess of Love in 1983, which was her final year with Arsenal. This album had peaked at 112 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 20 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. Now this album will produce 2 successful singles with Riding the Tiger and Why Did You Turn Me On?
Turn away.
In 1984, Arista, they had signed Whitney Houston, who was a young and up-and-coming sensation. After signing Whitney, they no longer needed Phyllis. Her career would suffer greatly as a result, and it really made her feel bad about being released. She believed that her career was over and that she couldn't find another deal. As a result, she would frequently use alcohol and cocaine to self-medicate. Throughout her career, Phyllis, she consistently stood for everything black, including interacting with Cassandra Miss Shepherd, who created her famous appearance and always gave her credit for it. In 1983, she would record the title track, Never Say Never Again, for the James Bond film of the same name. She would receive an offer from Philadelphia International Records later that year in 1984 that she couldn't refuse. And that following year in 1985, she would officially sign with PIR. She would release Living All Alone, which was her debut album for PIR in 1986. This album had peaked at number 78 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 11 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. That same year, she would go ahead and enter rehab. Now during the 90s, Phyllis, she would release 3 albums, with the 1991 album, Prime of My Life, which peaked at number 117 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 10 on the Billboard Top R&B Album charts. The 1995 album, I Refuse to Be Lonely, that peaked at number 67 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 12 on the Billboard Top R&B Album charts. And lastly, the 1998 album, Forever With You, which peaked at number 66 on the Billboard Top R&B Album charts. Just 6 days before turning 46, Hyman, she would overdose on a combination of Tuninol and vodka in the afternoon of June 30th, 1995 in her one-bedroom apartment in New York City. She was discovered unresponsive around 2:00 p.m. and later passed away at 3:50 p.m. She also had an Apollo Theater performance that was scheduled for later on that day.
And although she is gone, she will never, ever be forgotten.
The announcement on stage at the Apollo stunned many in the crowd waiting outside.
Music world lost somebody very important. Yeah. Very important tonight. Yes, oh, that's a shame. She's a good singer. Yeah. Great. She performed. Yeah. Great. Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
Phyllis, she will leave a message behind with the words, "I'm tired, I'm tired." Those of you that know I love you, know who you are. May God bless you.
Fashion freefall that's silly and exhilarating.
Tonight at the apparent suicide of popular jazz singer Phyllis Hyman. The 45-year-old Hyman was supposed to sing at the Apollo Theater tonight, but her assistant found her unconscious in her Midtown apartment this afternoon. She died at a nearby hospital. Police say pill bottles and notes were found near Hyman's body. Jazz singer Phyllis Hyman dead of an apparent suicide at age 45.
Now, according to the rumors, Phyllis committed suicide because her record label Arista had promised to turn her into the next Diana Ross, but they dropped her in favor of Whitney Houston. Anita Baker, Whitney Houston, Toni Braxton, and a lot of well-known more vocalists all followed in her footsteps. Even though she never had a mainstream hit or achieved any gold status, her voice made an effect on this industry that will live on forever.